Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today we're going to have a look at what's in this box. Sure, it says Miniart British Infantry Tank Mark III Valentine on the front, but is that what's really in the box? Yes it is. Okay, so we all know that Valentine's Day is coming up, and this year I'm prepared. Are you? Better hurry up, there's not much time left. I'm going to be streaming the build of this kit on Valentine's Day, so if you want to see that, head on over to my Twitch channel and give me a follow. There's a link in the description. If you happen to be watching this after February 14th, 2020, I guess just ignore all of that. There will eventually be a video of the build here on YouTube, so maybe check for that, depending on how far into the future you are. Anyway, enough of that. I think you've seen enough of what the box looks like. Let's have a look inside. Okay, so there's quite a lot of stuff here, and I was kind of surprised by how full that bag is, though it doesn't look like much in this shot because there isn't really anything for scale. Anyway, let's check it out. We get this hull tub, which wouldn't really work all that well as a tub because whatever you put into it would all run out one end, but it should work well for our purposes, which are not using it as a tub. The detail looks quite good. There is a bit of what appears to be rust around some of the raised lines on the inside of it, and I don't know if that's something to be concerned about. Probably not though. This here is the main reason it looks like there is so much in the bag. There are 5 sprues of track links. I've been doing a lot of track links lately, so what's 5 billion more? Actually, they shouldn't be that bad, and I do like individual links, even if they are a bit more fiddly and time consuming. They look pretty decent. They're also fairly simple, which I don't think is a bad thing. At any rate, we'll see how they go. They might completely piss me off. Who knows? Watch the stream to find out. On this sprue, we have a wide array of parts. There's things like final drive casings and suspension mounts, various boxes and tools, and the external fuel tank. By the looks of this sprue, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time building this. Not that that's a bad thing, of course. The parts here are pretty decent looking. They're well moulded, though maybe a little soft in some areas that shouldn't be, and there are definitely visible mould lines that are, while not horrible at all, are quite visible and will certainly require some work. There's also a bit of flashing around some of the edges here and there. Overall though, the tank sprues are pretty neat. There are 2 of this sprue, which is why you can see 2 of them. That makes sense. These seem to be mostly wheels and suspension related stuff. There's a few little grab handly bits on these sprues and they look to be quite fine, which of course means breakable. I am a little bit worried about the sprue gates here being a bit thick. Hopefully there aren't too many issues here. The same thing about the first sprue and also the following ones can be said here too. Pretty decent. This is actually my first Miniart tank, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. Looking at the sprues, I will say that I think this is a pretty decent kit for the cost. This one here holds a large amount of turret parts and these do look pretty good, though there's a few shots here where the flashing and mould lines are quite obvious. I don't think anybody is ever happy to see those, but I, and I'm sure many of you as well, have seen a lot worse in my time. I mean, you haven't seen them in my time, you've seen them in your time, but you get what I mean. The Bren gun here looks rather good. It does have a big mould line down the middle, but that shouldn't be too hard to clean up. I dare not try to clean up that trigger though. It looks so thin that it would just disintegrate if I even looked at it wrong. The rest of the parts here seem like they're sturdy, and should stand up to being handled by an oaf like me. Yet another sprue. This one has a bunch of guards, some mantlet-y bits, and other odds and ends. I do like the rivet detail. It looks like it should catch paint quite nicely, as good rivets do. This thing here looks like it's bent in a way that it shouldn't be, but I have no idea if that is actually the case. You can see some whitening where the plastic is being stressed, but I'm sure it's fine. Paint will hide that later anyway. There's another Bren gun on this sprue too. This one looks to be a little softer in detail than the other one. It also has the mould lines down the centre. It's not too bad, it's just that the other one looks a bit sharper. At this point I've got no idea if I need to use both or if I can choose one over the other. Also worth noting, maybe, is the big section on this, the D sprue. It looks like something has been removed from it, but I have no idea what that is. The instructions do say that the big gap should be there, so it's probably not really worth worrying about. It could be a part for another kit of a different variant of the Valentine. As long as we aren't missing bits, this is fine. This next sprue here predominantly features the hull top. This looks quite good. There are some huge rivets here and I think they look interesting. The part does seem a little bent, particularly at the rear, but that is probably something a little bit of pressure could take care of, so I'm not especially worried about it. A few of these bits and pieces seem to be internal parts of the tank, and there is a partial interior, which is pretty neat, and I probably will build that, though we'll wait until I'm actually doing the build to decide if it's worth doing or not. I rather like the teeth detail on the turret ring part. So bitey. That's what teeth do. They bite. It will probably never be seen, but this is a really cool detail if you want to build the tank with its turret blown off or something. Okay, one last sprue, this time with figures. These actually look like pretty good figures, and the detailing is quite good. However, the mold lines and flash are worse than any other sprue in this box, especially the figure's hands. That does seem to be more of an issue with infantry figures in general than tanks, which is probably something to do with all of the rounded edges and stuff. Oh well, the figures do still look decent, and I think I will at least put them together, though I might not put them on the tank. I don't think they're going to be that hard to clean up, and I think they should look decent with a little bit of work. Who knows, maybe I'll use them for figure painting practice or something. No promises though. There's also some photo etch in this kit. A fairly decent amount of it too. I'm hoping this stuff isn't too fiddly, and it does look like some bending will be in order. But they are mostly large and kind of simple looking parts, so I'll give it a whirl. I mean, I wasn't ever going to not give them a whirl. It would be silly to just omit them. Unsurprisingly, there are also some decals. There's a good variety of markings here, including some French and New Zealand options. I've never used Miniart decals before, so I've got no idea what to expect. Also, I have no idea how I'm going to paint this tank up, though that's not really going to be a concern for a while. Either way, it is nice to have a bunch of choices. And finally, we come to the instruction booklet, which has painting and marking guides at the front and rear, in colour and on some nice glossy paper. Inside we see the sprue guide, which is how I know the big empty part on the D sprue should be there. The instruction diagrams themselves are in black and white and on less fancy non-glossy paper, which is perfectly fine. At first glance they do seem well laid out, and I can't imagine I'll have too much issue in following them. There are a lot of steps and a lot of things to do, but that is to be expected, considering how many bits there are. The back has those painting examples I mentioned, and has a basic painting guide for the figures as well. As with pretty much all painting guides in kits, this one is simple, and most people are only going to use it as a rough starting point, if at all, but it is nice that it's there, and they are very helpful with marking placement. Okay, so that's what's in the box of the 1/35th scale Valentine Mark III from Miniart. I think it's going to be pretty fun to build up, and like I mentioned earlier, I will be doing that on Valentine's Day. That is of course local Australian time, but I'll probably work on it the day after as well. I keep hearing about people buying flowers and candy and stuff like that for Valentine's Day, which I find really confusing. Why would you buy those for a day that's meant to celebrate the Valentine tank? People are weird. I hope you plan to celebrate the day right, with a Valentine tank. So, this is going to be my first Miniart tank, and I'm pretty keen to get it started. Over the years, a few of you have asked if I would ever do one, and well, now I am. So I hope you enjoy it. For those of you who have built this kit, is there anything you think I or anybody else building this kit should know before starting? If so, let me know in the comments section below. And if you do happen to have built this model, why not head over to my Discord server and share a picture or two? That would be rad. There's a link in the description. There's also a link to my Twitch channel, where I'll be building this model starting on Valentine's Day. There's not really any question that this is going to take me more than one stream to get built, but Valentine's Day is when I'll be starting. So I would love to see you in chat. I think that's about enough from me. I shall return soon. Until then, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.